is not in session just yet. Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Gentle Perspective. I'm your host, Roneisha Gentle. Please click the subscribe button below, leave a like, and of course, feel free to comment. It's been almost a year of vacant classrooms here in Belize since the arrival of the pandemic. In this episode, we will be discussing the possible implications that all of this may have on our students, in addition to our educators. Since COVID, one of the first entities to feel the brunt of its forceful hand was, you guessed it, school. Such a common word before 2020, that is, because we now have parents who have been taking it for granted and who are now tasked with having to educate their little ones and even their older ones on topics that may have been relinquished from the crevices of their minds. Now, not get me wrong, the situation has essentially strong-armed the entire world in ensuring that they are a lot more technologically advanced and capable. But just how well can a country adapt and maintain a psychological and sociological balance when their children are not being engaged in face-to-face learning that can ultimately be beneficial for them and their development? Moreover, how has this affected an entire profession, teaching? Now, while Belize is at the drawing board in regards to gathering all the relevant stakeholders to discuss the possibility of the resumption of face-to-face learning and its challenges, Jamaica is a bit of a step ahead. Earlier this year, the Minister of Education, Youth and Information, Minister Fable Williams, announced that over 100 schools on the island would resume face-to-face modality of learning. I got a chance to speak to Jabari Wellington, a chemistry teacher at Wilmer's Boys High School. Here's how that went.
Basically the whole point of what the ministry are doing is that they really want to ensure that all students get fair chance education. So they are aware that there are huge gaps in connectivity issues, students who don't have devices, all of that. So coming from both the parents and the teachers, saying, some students learn differently. So it would be preferred that they would come into school face to face. And then also on the side of the students, because the parents, they really can't afford sometimes the student. And because of that, you have to ensure that they have to, get a fair chance, basically. So the face to face is basically to be able to do that, as well as, to protect all of the stakeholders in this case. So, for example, the face-to-face modality is not for everyone.
Right.
It's for the older students who are more responsible.
No, you mentioned that the face-to-face isn't for everyone. How has the Walmer's administration pick and choose who will benefit from in-person learning and who will do the virtual aspect of it? How has that been going for you guys?
Okay, so the decision that was taken was that for the students who are doing subjects which are more hands-on, so for example, the sciences where labs are supposed to be done, geography where they need to collect samples, accounting, maybe some advanced form of math where it is not clear on a board, if the teacher is not there, then they decided to do those subjects, and it's for older students as well. So for those students who require the literal face-to-face, the hands-on, needing to use the equipment, then those were we were told that those they have the option at least to come in. So for those, they online and the face-to-face modality.
Okay. So earlier this year, I know Minister Williams implored parents to desist from having their school-age children idling around and to engage in some form of learning. how realistic is it for some households to effectively accomplish that and to guide these students, their boys nonetheless, especially in
Mhm.
this tumultuous time? How does that work?
It is almost futile because you have some homes where the parents themselves they don't know what to do to teach a child. You have these so the minister will say, you can't allow them to do XYZ, but at the same time the parents themselves they are not aware of what to do to engage the child. They
Yeah.
don't know what to do to teach the child. They don't know a syllabus to say, okay, maybe you're supposed to learn this today. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have any idea of that. And that's in a lot of households here. It might not be majority, but it's a lot of households here. It's different because we have different classes of living here. But because of that, there's no control. You have no control over that. So the teachers, that's where teachers come in to try and do the best as they can. So, for example, I can give you a perfect example for me. I have a student who is from a very poor background, and because of that, he didn't have any way to get to classes. So what we had to do as an alumni, an old boy alumni, that divide and also the data for him to actually log on to classes,
Okay.
right? So the parents they don't know about cell phone or Google Classroom. This youngster is probably going to be the first person to graduate high school, right? But because he has the potential, you can just imagine what stress and strain is on the family alone just to try and provide that for him.
No, Jabari, what I really wanted to mention back, well, at the end of January, you had two schools, Donald High and Penwood High, who had to
Uh,
close just as they opened because
yeah.
of the insurgence of COVID-19 transmission. How how is it that you will be able to tackle a tennis court type of situation whereby as soon as a case pops up, you have to close back school, then you open it back, you close it back? How does that
You
work?
close it again. But I'm saying that for that situation is really sticky
Mhm.
because you can imagine just preparing your child, having to find money to buy school clothes and all of that to go to school, and then you have to return back to a modality that maybe you didn't even have to begin with. So
Yeah.
it's a problem. It's a huge, huge problem. And I believe on that regard, the government needs to um, put things in place. So I know that they would have done checks because they did checks to see whether or not the schools were able to be
Mhm.
opened initially. But at the same time, of course, they can't control where the children are coming from. They can't know whether or not they've been infected by anyone. Sometimes I don't think the closures are as immediate. I don't think they should be as immediate because I believe that if they take precautions, so
Yeah.
for example, taking the temperatures, checking to see if the student is doesn't have a fever and all of that, and they
Mhm.
have their nurses in place, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Case in point, ladies and gentlemen, not having a consistent structure guided by trained professionals will lead to a deficiency of learning within our children, especially for small Caribbean states such as Belize. There's a great need to ensure that we amalgamate safety protocols and effective modalities of learning to ensure that our children and students of all ages benefit the most from this entire process. But that's just the gentle perspective. Please click the subscribe button below, leave a like, and of course, feel free to comment so we can keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay safe.